I literally don't feel any pain, and I'm the clone of a serial killer. What do you have?
Just use finger. Failure.
Arashiyama Jurota, the Gentle King, is another dude that has fallen to the plight of purgatory rules. It is undeniable. Jurota lost to Hayami Masaki, but he is the one that stuck to his craft, no matter the rules, no matter the situation, and no matter the opponent. Jurota is a complete master of judo, a Japanese sport considered the most widely practiced martial art in the world. Judo does not involve striking or any weapons. It is a gentle sport that involves throwing people onto a mat with speed, power, and control by gripping a gi or a jacket. Because of this specialization, Judo is typically seen as a sport that isn't effective in MMA promotions and within the realms of fantasy, the Kengen Association, or Purgatory. Was Arashiyama Jurota bogged down by his dedication to Judo, or did his mastery of the sport enable him to succeed? Let's find out. At the age of 16, Arashiyama Jurota won the All Japan Judo Championships. At the age of 17, Jurota once again came out victorious, and at the age of 18, Jurota had again firmly secured his position. This performance was enough to gain international attention from other fighters, but it didn't do anything to quell his thirst for a challenge. Thus, at the age of 19, Arashiyama Jurota was depressed. He was at the peak of his power and couldn't find anybody that could challenge his mighty throne. So, Jurota's recession continued until he viewed the talent of a young Meguro Masaki, an up-and-coming judoka. After viewing his performance, Jurota was reinvigorated, sensing a worthy rival in Meguro Masaki, who had challenged Jurota like never before. However, a year later, a tragedy struck. Meguro Masaki, at the age of 13, threw 3 judo practitioners to death alongside his own father, a famous judo instructor. This brutal act of murder only affirmed Jurota's claim, forcing him to seek strength like never before, and seek out Meguro Masaki himself. From this moment forward, Jurota left the sphere of judo and abandoned the world altogether to focus on training. For almost 14 years after, Jurota reached another level of power in order to face Meguro Masaki. In the 15th year, Arashiyama Jurota allowed himself to spar against the A-list combatants in Purgatory, swiftly racking up victory after victory, and ultimately being crowned as the Gentle King. He sparred with his new comrades for 5 years, until receiving news that Meguro Masaki had died. 2 more years later, during the Kengen vs. Purgatory tournament, Arashiyama Jurota finally fought his long-awaited rival in Hayami Masaki, who is Meguro Masaki's clone and Huising recipient. This fight was definitely one of the better ones in Kengen Omega, and resulted in Hayami Masaki's victory over Arashiyama Jurota. Arashiyama Jurota's throws are first class, no doubt. They are strong enough to knock his opponents out or kill them. If his opponent is wearing clothes, he can perform his throws without having to grab anything. This is due to his neck strength. But even without clothing, Arashiyama will target joints, armpits, his opponent's own strikes, and perhaps even his opponent's collarbones like Meguro Masaki. Jurota is able to fight only with his devastating throws because of his mastery of judo. Arashiyama Jurota is a legend at manipulating the center of gravity and displacing his opponent's balance. By simply pinching his opponent's clothing or hooking it with his fingers, the friction of his skin acts as if he were grabbing his opponent. This ability gives Jurota 2 distinct advantages. 1. He has 0 delay and wastes 0 time throwing his opponents, making his throws faster and thus deadlier. 2. His opponents cannot perceive how they were grabbed. Pinching clothes is a very small maneuver and would fall under the radar of even the best fighters around. As proof, neither Kanoe Ajito or Tokita Oma could perceive it, and as extra proof, Narasimha Koga and Yamashita Kazuo, individuals with the famous fist eye, couldn't perceive it either. This technique was only revealed after Arashiyama's own footage was slowed down. Although this may only apply to opponents who wear traditional gis or shirts, Jurota in theory could pinch his opponent's skin with his index finger and thumb. Even without clothing, I give Jurota the benefit of the doubt. It's a no-brainer. Arashiyama Jurota is skilled at a grappling-based sport. In this regard, he also outclasses Hayami Misaki because he was able to get out of Hayami's triangle choke, his guard positions, and even his mount. Although he specializes in throwing his opponent, he is also superb when tied to the ground. Arashiyama Jurota can sustain a beating. Now, weaknesses. If Arashiyama's limbs or fingers are damaged, he will be unable to utilize his soft power and his throws would lose their viability and power. If either of these things are broken, Arashiyama's chances of winning will plummet. Arashiyama is a fighter who will never resort to striking no matter what. His unwavering commitment towards judo has given him a new level of power, but also limits his options and cuts off most strategies he can use against his opponents. Thus, this aspect of his personality is much like a double-edged sword. Now, matchups. First off, let's analyze his fights against A-list Purgatory gladiators, starting with Carlos Medel. Medel would have an advantage as far as striking is concerned. With his agility and elusiveness, he could evade Jurota and strike back with his jabs or kicks. But needless to say, it would be easy to catch Carlos by pinching his skin, catching him by the shorts, or locking his limbs when he does strike. This would be a moment where Carlos' skinny build would work against him because he can't tank a full throw from Jurota. Arashiyama Jurota wins. Another tricky fighter like Medel, the Falcon is an unpredictable striker who always has a fresh surprise up his sleeve with his waves of misdirection and fakes. This wouldn't be viable against Jurota because he is a counter-initiative fighter, meaning he is able to strike first by moving at the same time as his opponent. This is a step below pre-initiative and a step above post-initiative. Although Jurota may not have access to pre-initiative, counter-initiative would be successful against him. Arashiyama Jurota wins. In terms of build, Toei Mudo exceeds Jurota. But apart from that, Toei is primarily a striking specialist who dabbles with powerful counters. Against Jirota's throws, Toei's Breeding Mountain wouldn't amount to anything because he will not have the opportunity to redirect his opponent's power and amplify it with his own. Simply what would happen is that Toei Mudo will get thrown, and since Toei is a heavy man, his own weight would work against him, making Jirota's throws more powerful than it ever was before. Arashiyama Jurota wins. I have covered this before. Due to Yumigahama's weakness to grappling and soft power, nothing is stopping Jurota from locking Yumigahama's own blows and throwing him. Since Yumigahama is a heavy man, his own weight will work against him. Arashiyama Jurota wins. A mirror matchup between two grappling and soft power enthusiasts. This match would begin with Jurota throwing Naidan, but Naidan would be able to pull Jurota down with him using his passive dispersal of power. What should ensue is a ground battle between both of them. If both fighters are stuck on the ground, Naidan Monkbot will have the overwhelming advantage. With his Eye of the Sky, Naidan would be able to check all movements made by Jurota. It would be similar to Cosmo's domination over Oma, except Cosmo's foresight would be at a higher level, and Oma was prohibited from striking. The worst case scenario for Jurota is getting stuck in the mount and having to tank Naidan's blows. However, Jurota could escape with his redirection ability. With this ability, Jurota could slip out from any mount, guard, or hold that Naidan could offer and then return the fight back onto an upright plane. On the upright plane, Jurota could serve Naidan his powerful throws. Although this match would have many twists and turns, it will take a while for either fighter to actually succumb to their techniques or just run out of stamina. This fight could go either way. I cannot give an absolute verdict, but if the fight is upright, Jurota would win, but if the fight stays on the ground, Naidan wins. Lu Xian with the Wuhan Fist, Wu Wang Fist, will get absolutely demolished by Jurota. What we really need to discuss is Lu Xian with Formlessness. Although he would be unpredictable and has more options of attacking, Lu Xian would have a slight delay in taking actions, whereas Jurota is a specialist who responds to everything with a powerful throw. Along with this weakness, Lu Xian is a heavy man, his own weight will work against him. Arashiyama Jurota wins. A newcomer with simultaneously the shortest and oldest tenure in the story, Alan Wu is a member of the Westward faction. Thus, he has superhuman capabilities, deals selective breeding, and has access to Wu Hei's Guhun. Guhun would increase his speed, but due to Jirota's counter-initiative, he would be able to throw him nonetheless. Although Alan Wu could tank many of Jirota's throws, after he wastes his Guhun, Alan Wu will no longer be able to gain the initiative. Arashiyama Jurota wins. We haven't seen Donair do anything yet, but Donair was the victor of Purgatory's Ultimate Gladiator playoffs, which is inferred to be similar to Kengen's Annihilation tournament. If Donair was the victor of that tournament, that means he defeated Jurota. Although we do not know how he fights, I believe he is an aggressive striker who blitzes his opponents and seeks to end the match as swiftly as possible with powerful blows, similar to Wakatsuki Takeshi. This sort of fighting style wouldn't be very effective against Jurota because he would simply catch Donair's blows and throw him. But since he was ultimately the victor, he exploited Jirota's major weakness, his limbs and digits. By punching out Jirota's joints, locking them, shattering his fingers with a solid punch, or performing a Jujutsu finger lock, Donair was successful in totally neutralizing Jirota's throws. With this, we have more knowledge about Lolong Donair and his victory over Arashiyama Jurota. Now, time for the Kengen Association. Considering Arashiyama Jurota's prestige and skill, I have decided to pit him against fighters who fought all the way to the semi-finals. But first, a few honorable mentions. Banda Yohei is completely immune to Jirota's throws, but Jurota would win by exploiting Yohei's weakness to locks. Fighters like Adam Dudley and Kaoru Yoshinari wouldn't be affected by his redirection at all due to their strong trunk muscles. However, Adam hasn't perfected his style of combat yet, so Adam would most likely lose. But Kaoru Yoshinari is definitely more skilled, and if you're thrown by Jurota, that move would activate his Ocean experience. Therefore, Kaoru Yoshinari stands at a greater chance of winning. Inaba Ryo would grapple against Jurota from a distance, but his hair would act as a bigger sheet of clothing for Jurota to manipulate, so the Phantom loses. Hanafusa Hajime would kill him easily, no doubt, and Julius Rinhold is a heavy man, his weight would work against him, etc, etc. Now for the semi-finals. Oma's aces, namely Demon's Bane and the Advance, wouldn't be effective at all against an opponent like Jurota, who doesn't have powerful blows and would use Oma's strikes as an opportunity to throw him. In an upright battle, the only thing saving Oma from dying is indestructible, which doesn't last forever. The only thing Oma should really focus on is grappling Jurota to the ground. However, Jurota could slip out of Oma's submission holds with his redirection and return the fight back to a vertical plane. Arashiyama Jurota wins. This one was very close to happening. Wakatsuki Takeshi was completely prepared to face Jurota. Although I feel Hayami was completely correct in subbing out for him, because Wakatsuki is incredibly weak to soft power. Yes, his strikes are absolutely beastly, but will Waka get the opportunity to land any of them before getting tossed? The answer is no. Therefore, the only option Wakatsuki has is to rely on his grappling, which Jurota would have no problem escaping. Other than that, Wakatsuki is a heavy man, his own weight would work against him. Arashiyama Jurota wins. No. This is where Arashiyama will stop. Kureiki Gensai, without getting into his proper skills, is a stupidly smart fighter. After viewing Kano Yajito's Dragon Shot, he instantly devised the supinating wrist lock. After viewing Tokita Oma's Demon's Bane, he understood its purpose, its formless nature, and the danger that poses before even Wakatsuki, who experienced it up close and personal. Perhaps while viewing Jurota in action, while the other fighters are busy freaking out, Gensai was chilling in the back like, the way he is using his fingers is truly befitting of a master. Maybe I can do that. What I'm getting at is that Kureiki Gensai can't instantly understand his opponent's strengths and weaknesses. Gensai should come to the conclusion that if he breaks Jirota's fingers, he would no longer be able to unleash his throws as quickly. But could Gensai do it? Absolutely. Gensai has pre-initiative, and with a well-timed block, he would be able to shatter Jirota's fingers with his palm. Arashiyama Jurota loses. As emphasized with Lucian, formlessness would be a poor choice against a specialist. Therefore, Kano Yajito should use his martial arts. However, even with pre-initiative, his strikes will give Jurota more opportunities to throw him. Even taking Dragon Shot into consideration, he wouldn't land it because he would never be in close quarters. Therefore, the only means of winning for Conway Agito is to mix the two together. With this new ability, he effectively gains the formal style's immense arsenal, pre-initiative, and the Dragon Shot all tied together. With this unique synchronous of his two styles, he can overcome anybody, Jurota included. Agito is the only character who is capable enough to contest Jurota in an upright battle without attacking his digits or limbs. Arashiyama Jurota loses. Arashiyama Jurota is very unique. While Wakatsuki won the genetic lottery and has evolved into a monster after suffering major defeats, Tokita Oma is a man from the inside who was taught the Nico style by an absolute legend, and not only exceeded his master, but also survived the Demon's Bane ritual, something that is arguably much worse than the Gu ritual. These are the types of people that populate this tier, and Jurota has reached this tier through his sheer dedication. Although a very powerful combatant, his only improvement would be to strengthen his fingers and joints through partial training. But apart from this, Arashiyama Jurota is a judo practitioner deserving of his status as one of the strongest men in Purgatory. Hi, it's the cyborg whale named after Italian cheese and a dessert item. Thanks for watching. If you like content like this, you should subscribe. Next up, we will be doing Alan Wu. But until then, have a good day.